Peace, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of On Tilt, the state of Black mental health and policing in America. I'm Julius, here with Miss Dannielle Brown. How you doing today, love?
I'm doing wonderful. It's been a lot of sunshine lately here in the Washington, D.C. area. How is it for you in Pittsburgh?
It's beautiful. I'm looking out my window, blue skies, sun is out, warm, good energy.
Yes. I had a fabulous week. Coming off of Mother's Day, that was great. Oh my God. I went to a comedy show and I think I'm still laughing. I'm still laughing. It was phenomenal. So I had a great Mother's Day, great week. Can't complain. Sun out, hey. And I'm still alive.
Yes.
And so are you, Julius?
I am. Yeah, I'm on. I told you I'm on my vegan journey, so that's been good to me. I'm just back in the gym, so I'm trying to practice the whole health as well, lifestyle and tend to myself when I can. So yeah, life is good. Life is good. So we won't waste any time. We want to get right to it. We are still in Mental Health Awareness Month. So for those of you who don't know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Last week, Miss Dannielle and I talked about bringing some folks on who have expertise, and we're both we have mental health background ourselves, but we do want to bring somebody else in to talk about how we can practice wellness ourselves. What does it mean to practice wellness when we're constantly seeing these images and these things that are happening to Black folks throughout the country and throughout the world? And how do we maintain as activists and maintain our own humanity in the process of all these things happening? So the guest we have today is just a remarkable, phenomenal brother. Like and I mean brother, like I consider him a brother to me. He is a mental health professional. He is a father. He is a husband, a community leader. He has a background in the political space. He's involved in Miss Dannielle's foundation. I mean, he is a Renaissance man of sorts. And he's the thing that I really love about this brother is that he finds that sweet spot, right, of not being too overly therapeutic with the mental health stuff. And he brings that right to the middle of meeting people where they're at in the community. Because sometimes mental health professionals, they can throw some terms at you and you're like, what are you talking about? I'm not receiving this, right? So he is just that type of person where his warmth and his energy and his expertise are received just by who he is. So without further ado, we'll bring on our guest for today, Brother Andre Scott. Dre, welcome, brother. How you doing?
Peace, everybody. I'm well. How are y'all?
Hey, Dre.
Hello.
Look, before we get started, we want to pause for a moment of silence. Then we're going to jump right in.
Thank you for that, Miss Dannielle. Mm-hmm. I was so excited. I'm like, we got Dre on today. We got to get right to the conversation, and we got to make sure we make space to acknowledge the folks who aren't with us, because that's equally as important. So Dre, for the people who are watching who don't know who you are, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Outside of Julius's world-renowned introduction, because that's my bro, and he does what he does best. I am the owner and mental health therapist at Able Vision Counseling and Consulting Services. We are going on our 2nd year anniversary this coming September. I am also an outreach worker for Cure Violence, Allegheny County, which is a violence prevention and intervention program. Just brought into the city last year, so we've been doing this for about a year and a half. I'm a councilman here in the borough, so I do a lot of things there. I make music. I use that for therapy and engagement with youth and other aspiring artists in the city. So I do as much as I can with the time that I'm given.
Wow. A lot more than I do.
I try to sleep sometimes. I don't know. That finds its way in there somewhere.
I mean, can I add one more to your narrative?
Yes, you may.
He's also accepted a position on the Marquis Jaylen Brown Foundation board. So
that's major.
I am ecstatic to be able to take all that talent and to apply it to the board. And we're excited. Thank you
so much. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. So Dre, when you think about how you show up in all your roles, right? You wear a number of different hats, and you think about policing and mental health and all the things that we've been experiencing as a people over the past forever. But it's really been elevated, over the past year and a half. What comes to mind for you? What's on your heart?
In preparation for this, I get into my meditative, reflective space, so I'm always useful in my position. Fear and trauma connected to everybody involved. Everybody, the police, the residents, the community, the leaders, everybody. Fear and trauma. So for me, I've never been a police officer. I've never aspired to be a police officer. But back in my day, young people wanted to be police officers. You asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up. Police officer was always in there. Police officer, fireman, doctor, something, lawyers. Police officer was always in there. We don't have that anymore. We don't have young people connected to the process or in enough relationship with the officers to even aspire to those places. So it's kind of difficult to get resident buy-in when you don't know this person, when this person doesn't know you not by choice, like I'm intentionally not knowing you, but by choice. I'm going to stay in my neighborhood, and then I'm just going to come to work. So yeah, fear and trauma on every aspect. We have been traumatized as a people for a long time in various capacities. That has not been released or properly dealt with. Therapy helps. It might not be everybody's answer for everything, but therapy helps. Conversation helps. Sharing helps. We haven't exactly been reared in that culture as a people either. We haven't been reared in the let's share out, let's make sure that our feelings and emotions are expressed in the community space, whether it be family or otherwise, so that we can deal with it together. So those police officers are also people. If they haven't been reared in that space, they don't have that skill. If the social component and dynamic that has been recently introduced was not introduced previously, then there won't be a social approach to some of the situations that they walk into. So that fear and that trauma is reflected in their reactions. I need to get home. I'm scared something might happen to me. Whether it's real or not, these are the concepts we got to deal with. So just trying to iron that out for everybody. So if all of the police officers don't live in Wilkesburg, because I live in Wilkesburg, at least they live close enough, or I know of them, to where if they see my son, I have an 18-year-old son, they don't think he's out causing a crime. They know me, they know him, they know our family dynamic, and they'll respond a little differently. They should respond a little differently.
So as a parent, did you take the responsibility to introduce your family, your children to your community officers? Did you take that initiative in hopes in order to keep your children safe and to I guess incorporate that community a partnership alliance with officers?
Fortunately and unfortunately. So I'll say unfortunately first. Baby Marcus that got killed some years ago, that was my little cousin. So
Really?
from that point, I was really involved in a lot of this stuff because my family wasn't comfortable speaking. They had to do their emotional piece, and they were there obviously, but they weren't exactly comfortable speaking amongst the people. So I would take on some of that responsibility, obviously grieving in my own time because he was still a baby. But my son was with me on a lot of that stuff. We went to Washington. We did a lot of things with the Coalition for Father and Family, Ceasefire, those type of entities, to where my son was always with me, and he would speak from the young person vantage point. So just him, my daughter would be with me as well. So that's how they naturally got entrenched in that circle. But there aren't that many opportunities just for me to walk into the police department with my children, with my wife. Okay, this is Councilman Scott and his family. Let's talk to the police. So I was literally, I like how this works. I was literally just talking to our vice president about something like that. How can we just have interactions with our police officers and it's not tense and stressed out and reactionary? How come we can't just go down to their office? They come outside, play in the park. I don't know, but we get to know them. And so when people ask me stuff as a council person, I can be informed about the officer you're speaking to. I can reflect on his character. I can tell you if I don't agree with you or with what the officer did, but I don't know anybody to even really make that reference point.
Wow. When I used to work in law enforcement, we used to do these community ride-ons with officers. And I used to wonder, I used to think it was really neat when they went into like the low income housing. Mm-hmm. And they would know the certain kids by name, and the kids knew the officers by name. But from what I understand, that's not a lot happening now. Like now it goes viral if you see an officer playing basketball with why is that going viral? Like I grew up knowing who the officers were in the community, so I'm thinking, maybe there need to be a lot more involvement, like you said, off the beat of officers in the community. When I was at Freedom Corner, it was an officer that we befriended each other. He started coming off duty playing chess with me, and I could appreciate that. But part of it was I kind of initiated it too. I was like, why are you here in your uniform? This is, it's kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
Let me get to know you outside your uniform. Mm-hmm. And he took me up on it.
And this is so good already. That's the energy that I like to put forth in places. I don't have beefs or ongoing conflicts with folks. So if I don't want to even say opposing, but if two opposing forces like me, they have to learn to like each other at some point. So I have certain officers that I'm okay with, and I have a lot of community members that I'm okay with. If y'all both trust me, then I'm asking y'all to step into this space and know this will be a safe space. We initiated a program, me, Larry Davis, Shannon Williams, now Shannon Hughes, and a bunch of other folks, the Meet the Beat Cop series. So we were going around the city intentionally, every zone, every police department, organizing meetings to where community leaders, residents, daycare owners, whoever could come in and literally interact with the police in that type of space. But we need resources, we need venues, and we need things like genuine intention to continue that type of effort.
Listening to y'all made me think of a question about how this kind of engagement could potentially influence future interactions when police come in contact with particularly Black folks. Do y'all think that this kind of focused, intentional relationship between law enforcement and community members actually leads to less Black and brown folks being shot and killed by police? Does it produce that result, or something? No, does it produce the result?
I would hope if we had more time, because like I said, like I'm on the mental health side of things too, so it takes time to really be able to correlate results and causality to certain things. So if we could continue that effort, I'm really seeing it as, Jules, you know me, I'm a baseline person. It's human to human first, and then we deal with the positions. It's human to human first. I don't have to know you personally to not harm you. Let's think about that first, and then let's go into the position. I'm a police officer by vocation. You are not a police officer when you're at the cookout, bro. You're not a police officer when you're at Kennywood. Like you're off duty. You're a regular human person there. So we need to be able to see you in that capacity, and you need to understand that we move how we move, not like we commit crimes and that's okay. Just let people commit crime. No, we're a huddled people. We're social people. We like to be in groups. So if we're in groups, we are surely not planning a takeover of something. We're probably trying to go hoop. We're probably trying to find something to eat. Like we don't do that just to like caper and case robberies. We don't do things like that. We're really social people that like to gather and then plan to move out.
So I hear you saying, brother, like being able to, as a law enforcement person, come into that space, engage with us human to human, and really get a better understanding of how we just live our lives, how we are literally just trying to just live our lives and do what we do for fun, for pleasure, for work, for family, and you will be able to see that, wow, like this is how I want to try. This is how every normal person wants to live their lives. They just want to do what they need to do and live, basically.
Exactly. And it's the control factor. I'm gonna keep saying that because George, you really know me. The control factor is not what we need to be doing on any level. So yes, you are asked to protect and serve and enforce the laws and all that other jazz, but you're not the judge. So you have to do your job specifically and then let the other pieces of the game play their part. You can't do all the judging on the scene. That's where that fear and that trauma kicks in. You're trying to do all of that right on the scene, right in the moment. Mentally, we are our worst when our emotions and our anger is at its highest.
Right.
We are our worst humans when we are angry. We don't think straight. We don't care about the outcomes most times. We just want to solve whatever issues in front of us. If we are afraid, it elicits a similar response. Our brain can't say the fight or flight. It can't say, yes, you're ready to fight somebody right now. You have to decide that in the moment. The energy is exactly the same. You got to decide whether you're going to act, whether you're going to stand down, or if you're going to think. I need a lot of officers to think. Please think first.
Mark in our chat, Mark Leonard mentions, he says, too bad that it can't be mandatory for officers to have to spend off-duty time, even if minimal, in the neighborhood that they work in. Not necessarily basketball or sports, but maybe school tutoring, neighborhood cleanup, etc. Yes. I can understand why he says that, because I think that would help, that maybe show up at volunteer, maybe officers are required to do certain amount of volunteer hours in their beat. Right. I like the cleanup part. I like the, tutoring. I like all of that Mark has mentioned. Because I think also what you alluded to when you said control, I thought about power. The energy, whether you're on duty or off duty, sometimes the energy that you display to your community is one of power.
Yes.
And that is intimidating within itself, that you don't come across meek or humble, but you come across as one having authority and power. Yep. So it doesn't matter. How many stories have we heard where off-duty police officers got in their feelings and used their position and their badge and their gun to, one up a situation, to address, alleviate, whatever, but it was unnecessary.
Right. I like that. I like that too. I like that. In addition, there are, like I said, there are some officers that are naturally inclined to move with a little bit more humility, a little bit more community-based approach, and then they get not stuck, but they get termed the community engagement officer. So now this person that's naturally okay with the community is in the community 24/7. So now this person is burned out because they have to go to every event, they have to volunteer at everything. So how come? I would like for, I don't know what the finances are or the process is, extract some things from that person. It might be character things, it might be training they received somewhere else to where they intentionally are able to behave in this way and put some of that into the police force. I don't know. I never worked, like I said, I've never been a police officer. I've never really been through the full gamut of training, but I understand from my position that these things help in various fields: policing, educational spaces, employment spaces. All of these things help when you transfer that. I don't have another word. When you transfer that love to the space, I don't have another word for it. When you transfer the love to the space, we need more of that.
Yeah, Dre. Another thing that came up for me is like whenever I'm around any kind of police officer, and Miss Danielle, you mentioned this about the guy in his uniform who you were playing chess with. If I see an officer in uniform, black, white, purple, pink, whatever color that person is, I'm automatically intimidated in my fight or flight or fear stuff goes up because of like the what the uniform represents to me and what the badge represents to me. And that's something that I as a human, right, Dre, as a human being, and then as a mental health professional and a social worker, I keep asking myself, like, what is that? Well, what is that rooted in? And I want to tell this quick story because I think it's important. Um, it's important to tell. So one time I was out, y'all know Brother Leon Ford and his story and how just if there's anybody who has the right to not get along with or to hate police and law enforcement, Leon Ford is a brother that should have the right to feel any kind of way he wants to about law enforcement. And this is before the pandemic. I'm out. We're at wow. We're on Duquesne's campus. We're on Duquesne's campus they got a little Starbucks or a little coffee spot in there, and we're talking about mental health stuff and mindfulness and just some of the stuff that we're involved in. And two police officers walk in, two white men, full uniform. And Leon's like, I have my back turned to the door, so I can't see the cops walking in, but he can. And I see him look up and just hit. You ever see Leon Ford smile? He just has a smile that just lightens up every room. And he's like, I don't know if he knew them or not, but it kind of seemed like he did have some kind of knowledge of who they were. But he was just like, hey, how are y'all doing? Like, and I'm like, I turn around, I'm expecting to like see two students or something. I turn around and I'm like, whoa, this is like, I'm in like fight or flight. And he's just like smiling. And I'm like, how did he get to a place of healing or wherever he was in that moment to where he can communicate like that with the folks that are a part of this infrastructure and system that try to take his life away? Like I haven't had any kind of experience like that. I'm just going off my basic level of fear and trauma that I have when I see a cop get behind me and my heart just starts beating. But he was just that love you talked about, Dre, and that forgiveness. I'm like, it was like one of the most mind-blowing things I had ever experienced. And then he just picked up the conversation with me right as they left. Okay, yeah, bro. So we're gonna. And I'm like, what just happened? That love. It was like, as cliche as it sounds, that love conquers all. He's like, I'm going to give you so much love and show you that there was no way for me to hate you. Even after your extended family tried to take my life, I'm still not going to hate you. Like that.
That's the freedom. I rocks with Leon heavy, man. I like him. I like him. That's the freedom. That's the freedom. We're talking about. That fear and that trauma is of uncertainty. We don't know what they may or may not do. He knows what they have done and the possibility, and he is not letting them, like we said, the control and the power. He's not allowing that control and power to sit on his mind and on his spirit. That's an extreme freedom, and that brings us back to the humanity piece. Your extended family harmed me, but it wasn't exactly you two that just walked in here. I might not like your cousins in them, but it wasn't you exactly. So I don't have to continue this beef and perpetuate the problem with somebody that wasn't exactly involved. And Leon is very versed and articulate and entrenched in his movement on how to rectify those type of things. So good work, George. I like how you brought that
in. Look, I just think the comments are so good today. The ideas. We have Liz Harinda. All cops should have to walk through all neighborhoods and meet people. They should not be in uniform before receiving a badge and gun. They should not be in uniform before receive a badge and gun. They should spend at least a year getting to know the city and the people. I think that latter part, a year, that might be a bit much, but how about, I think they kind of offset that by hiring within the community. Don't they tend to hire or try to hire within, like someone coming out of high school with the cadet programs, and train them when they come into the academy? That's kind of like your pre-officers.
Yeah, it's different for each department per se. So I really try to speak only from the Wilkinsburg perspective. There's an ordinance years ago, way before I was ever on council, maybe 14, 18 years ago, I don't know, that no longer required the officers to be Wilkinsburg residents. So these things have to go before councils and mayors and whoever else makes these decisions to make them ordinances. So I could want to be, right now, I live in Wilkinsburg, I could want to work for the garbage company in Pittsburgh. I have to now find a residence in Pittsburgh to work for that company. That doesn't always match when it comes to the police department.
Interesting.
And some of those suggestions she said would definitely help. And that's, like we said, the rapport building and knowing your folks. I can't, okay, my profession. I can't help you if I don't know anything about you. I can't help you. I can't help you converse. I can't help you develop interpersonal skills. I can't help you learn how not to scream at your child 70 times a day if I don't know anything about you. That has nothing to do with you committing a crime. That has nothing to do with you responding to somebody trying to harm you. That has nothing to do with you having mental disabilities and me just being a police officer in that space. If I know nothing about you, I only respond from my perspective. I only respond from what I know. What I know is what they trained me over here and what I know that I got to do to make my way back home at the end of the day. If I don't know anything about you, I don't consider you, your well-being, who's connected to you. This is my job. Got to do this. Got to move on to the next piece of the job.
This is all making me think about it. If we have any research people, any numbers nerds out there that can pull some reports, I would like to see something. Maybe we talk about a city and a county level of what percentage of cops. Is it all percentage of cops are from the area that they're policing, or are they from sort of the outskirts? And two, what do the stats say about if a police officer is from a certain area and the rate of police killing people in that area? Does it show that it's lower if a cop is from that area, or does it show that it doesn't really impact it? Is there any? Do we know if there's any kind of data out there that shows that?
We could touch base on something. I don't have any exact numbers myself, but we could definitely look into it.
Yeah, that's interesting, Julius.
Yeah, because I guess the reason I bring that up is because when we talk about, you know, sort of back in the day when it was community policing, when it was structured that way, did we see less Black and brown people being shot and brutalized and murdered by police because it was that community policing? Or was it some other stuff that happened that kind of led to it? Was it, you know, all these sort of made up narratives about how dangerous and violent and flagrant Black folks are? So that just kind of got, you know, finessed into it to justify the murder of Black people, Black and brown people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there's so many angles. We cannot ignore some of the responsibility that we must take among ourselves in our own community, in our own neighborhoods. When crack hit the scene, see, we had heroin before we had crack, for real, you know, in it. But even with heroin, it wasn't causing that level of violence. With marijuana, it wasn't pot. It wasn't causing that level of violence among inner city violence. It was, in which we know the media take inner city violence and they post it all over the nation. So inner cities become the representative of Black communities.
Right.
And we all know how our land was taken from us and we were pushed into inner city slums that was considered, now they're premium property, but they were considered, you know, city slums. So they pushed us all in there. And so that's why, you know, a lot of violence is representative of inner city. So, but then crack hit the scene. Cocaine didn't cause a lot of violence either. But when crack hit the scene, then you had the influctuation. It was a quick drug. It was so quick, fast money. You had the influctuation of guns in our community. So, and it was an immediate impact both on your mental health, your physical health, your, you know, I guess physical health would include, you know, death, the rise of people dying. So some of these things, I think, as well, have played a huge factor. And then the city designed it, the liquor stores on every corner. You know, McDonald's every other block, fast food, you know. So back to the design piece. And you know.
This is so good. I like this. I try not to be too heavy into any conspiracy theories or anything of that nature. I see what's before me and I understand who I am as a person. I do believe there are things in place to keep us from succeeding to their level. And I use my words on purpose. There are things in place to keep us from succeeding to their level, which should never be our aspiration. Never be our aspiration. I don't control my words. Not culturally like all Black people are super kings, but we have our own nature and our own passion for the planet and how we move. So it's kind of difficult for us to put things in motion that are not based on our origins, that are not taking us to where we are trying to get to in life. And then we are judging ourselves by that standard. The police system was never meant to help us. It was meant to protect and serve the assets of those people in power from the beginning of them having power and wanting their assets protected. So we can't say, yes, these police aren't doing the policey job thing they're supposed to do. They actually are. So if we're not looking to ascend in a space that doesn't necessarily belong to us, and we're comfortable enough, like you said, tapping into our own responsibilities and our own life energy, that we could present some stuff on the other side. It's like I said, it's only 2 years in the making, but I'm looking to hire people already at Able Vision. It's not a sit down and flaunt in front of somebody type of concept. It's a let's build together. This is my gift. I see your gifts. Let's put monetary value to those things, and let's keep building amongst ourselves. It never has to be a segregated approach. Sometimes we just got to turn in and help us first.
Hmm. Did you want to respond, Miss Dannielle? Because I got. He dropped some jewels. I'm like, oh, I got to say something to that.
No. I'm just sitting here taking it all in. You go for it, Julius.
Yeah. Wow. You just said a lot. I mean, we could literally 36 minutes in, we could end the show right now and be good. We got half the show left. So, as you were talking, Dre, it made me think about, you said the purpose of law enforcement and more specifically police is to, control their interests, to control the things that they deem to be valuable. And we heard a lot about that, and we still hear a lot about it with demonstrations of our folks going out and advocating for our lives, and they're trying to protect property, like brick and mortar property, but we're talking about people's actual lives. And so I give that context to say, if law enforcement was created and is continuing to be upheld to protect something that isn't even in the interest of the community, how will community policing change any of that?
Influence is strong. Influence is very strong. Peer pressure, all this other silly stuff. Influence is strong. I don't have an exact answer because I haven't lived in that exact space. If Officer Friendly, that's always a safe name. If Officer Friendly was living next door to Andre, he would know Andre, Andre's wife, Andre's children, Andre's mother, Andre's friends, because they come to Andre's house and they would have to be next to Officer Friendly's house. He would know when they're elsewhere, and if they're engaged in something that is not exactly lawful, he could speak to them and know that he wouldn't be attacked, this, that, and the third, because he already knows them based on his proximity to the other people. I'm hoping this is a thing that can generate more energy and more change, but I don't have an exact answer. I know when I'm at the hoop court, because I'm 38 and I hoop with the youngins, they get to using the extra language. Like, I'm somebody's dad, right? Oh, what? No, I'm somebody's dad. This is my son right here. Oh, my bad. Influence helps. It's not control. It's not power. It's influence. Like, have some flippant character. Have some values about you to where you influence people to do better stuff.
Absolutely. I like that.
I had to watch my words. Be live.
Hey, I bet people saw another side of Mama Brown when they started watching the podcast.
Yeah, like, what's going here?
So can we? I think we have been talking about it, maybe not explicitly, but can we lift up the mental health piece of these conversations a little bit more too? Right, we're talking about the impact of where stores are and what kind of stores they are. We're talking about the impact of drugs and is how that has manifested within the Black community. And we talked about how the lack of community policing has limited the depth of relationships and humanity that we're able to see in those situations. So how does all of that, how do we maintain our own mental health and wellness in the midst of all of that vicious cycle just continuing to unfold? How do you, Dre, maintain some sort of balance and sanity, knowing that that's the kind of world that we live in today?
And before he answered, can I piggyback and attach something to what you just said, Julius? I want to know, how do you get our community to know that they have a mental health issue, to be able to just know it? Like you said on the basketball court, I'm somebody's father, right? No, that's my child. I'm somebody's father. So you had to make the connection for that person to understand that. So I guess to piggyback on what Julius was saying, all of that is great, but we got to start at a baseline of saying, I have a mental health problem. But first of all, how do I know I have a mental health problem?
I got you.
But go back. Sorry, Julie.
No, you good. Andre personally likes Andre's stuff. It sounds very simple. I like Andre's stuff. I like making music. I like doing puzzles. I like playing basketball. I like, I've learned, our adult years, we get cars. I've learned to just start taking walks nowadays. I'm just walking around looking at trees and birds in the top of buildings. I don't know. They might look at me like I can't see, but I'm enjoying what I'm looking at. This is a blessing to be able to see these things. I try not to impose any spiritual components on anybody because everybody has their own walk, but that really helps me. I pray a lot. Like I said, I get in my meditative and reflective space to make sure I'm not intentionally causing an issue in whatever spaces that I have to step into. And to normalize mental health, we all got a problem. We all have something. Every human on this planet has something that they have to deal with to make them a better person. I call mine my anger monster. That's why I tell jokes. That's why I try to keep my energy light and loose, because I don't have a lot of control when I get to that point. I never want to approach that point. I have things that I deal with. Last month, 2 of my cousins got killed. One of my best friends, he got killed. A young man I mentor got killed. So April was a heavy month for a therapist. You know what I did? I told my people I was having a heavy month, and we may have to reschedule, and we may have to move time around so I could be good to them. We just got to be honest. I don't have like rocket science answers for people. Be honest. You know when you're stressed out. You know when you're sleeping too much. You know when you're crabby. I'm not the greatest morning person. I have children. They have to get up for school, so I have to be up at least an hour or more before they wake up so I could get my mental together. Take your time. Time management is not just related to work tasks and educational tasks. Manage your time and your day on purpose. Know when you're operating at your optimum self. My theory of choice is self-actualization. Pretty much you're becoming the best you possible. There's only one Andre Scott. There might be some other people on the planet named Andre Scott, but there's only one Andre Scott. There's only one Julius Boatwright. You know what I mean? There's only one Mama Brown. There's only one of us. So we have to embrace that and know what times of day fit us and be comfortable enough to communicate that to other people. I have to tell my wife, because she's a bubble as soon as she wakes up. That ain't my energy as soon as I wake up. Give me a minute. Let me settle myself. Then we can bubble the rest of the day. But we have to be honest and comfortable enough to say those type of things. Now, I'm some type of super tough machismo dude. I never get upset. My feelings never get hurt. You're lying to everybody. You're lying to everybody. You never get sad. Like I said, April was a tough month. We just got a new stove yesterday. The giant Penske truck is on my little baby private street. And now they have to back down the street back into traffic. I almost cried. Like, honestly, like, please, I don't want to see no harm come to nobody. I'm too emotionally unstable from last month. I got to go in the house and pray that they make it down this hill. We just got to be honest with ourselves and be willing to share certain stuff so our supports can know when to step up and when to stand down. Like, that's the real of it. Your supports are your main thing. Me and Jules do a whole bunch of this, supports and resources and networking, so that you're not always by yourself. Oh, I do everything by myself. I got it out the mud. Well, the rain had to come down and touch the dirt for it to turn to mud. So something had to happen before you did it.
Absolutely. That whole be honest with yourself piece. You know, even being honest with your significant others and your support system and people around you, because people don't know.
Right.
You know, and it doesn't have to be a very traumatic, big event. It's just a conversation. Look, I'm not feeling well today. And then wake up in the best spirits.
Yep.
And then you respect that. You know?
And then if they see that, they hopefully, if they're true to your circle, they'll do something. My people know me. I'm not some type of comedian. They'll throw a joke in there. They'll ask me, do I want to work out? Do I want to hoot? What's going on with the music? They'll take my mind away from stuff because they already know the things that help me, and they know that they are a true support of my day.
Dre, I got a question, and this may be kind of shifting gears a little bit, but how do you engage with police officers right now? What does your interaction with police look like when you see them, when you're in the same room or on the same Zoom? What does that look like?
Much like y'all said, it depends on whether they're in uniform or not. I'm not clothes don't define me, but when you're in that space, I try to take a more serious approach with you. I don't have that many things that are viewed negatively by police. I'll say that. So I'm not in a bunch of criminal stuff and all this other stuff. So I'm just as free as a bird when I'm around the police. I'm as free as a bird. Oh, okay, yeah. So I need y'all to do this over here. Oh, this is what you do. But I also am cognizant of situations, and I make sure that if any of that energy transpires, I either remove myself or I deal with it directly. I haven't been assaulted by a police officer, or in my life, I've had minimal criminal activity. So not like I'm an angel, but I've had minimal criminal activity. So I don't have that much inner dealings with them. And like I mentioned, I literally just talked to our vice president of the council to see how we can have intentional meetings with our police officers. How can we get to know them and not make them have to come out in the park and sit in their cookout sandals and all that other stuff? How can we get to them and make sure they feel comfortable first? So when we ask them to come outside, there's no reservation. So I'm kind of proactive. I'm not naive to the fact. I just personally haven't experienced that type of trauma.
It's interesting. Not to really throw anything off, but I was reading the article and they were talking about what a typical person looked like when they get stopped by the police officer. So like, I'm looking at you, Dre, and I'm like, you got your beard is nice cut, you're nicely groomed, you got glasses on, so you look intelligent. You know, take your glasses off. Let your beard grow a little bit more than in the realm of being nice and neat.
Right.
Then we got a different look. Put a little earrings in your ears and then stick on a hoodie.
Yep.
You know, unfortunately, this is what a lot of our young people and our African-American men look like, with locks sometimes. Yep. You know, they don't come across as your well-to-do, neat, you know.
Yes.
And it is sad that we have to be put in that picture to get a little bit of respect or a little bit safety, you know. And that's the problem right there. So, you know, I guess, and be careful here. Because I guess what I'm saying is, it really depends on your look sometimes, even before you open your mouth, what type of interaction you're going to have with an officer, you know, and how you carry your aura, you know, how much swag you carry when you know, in them streets, you know, just it's community interaction. That's it. That's exactly it. Everybody know who's the crazy one in the neighborhood is, right? Exactly. I grew up. I said, so-and-so down the street lost their everlasting mind. Everybody knew little JoJo is cray-cray. The police should know that if you're spending time in the community. So when little JoJo's, the police in that whole precinct in the 4th district to say, that's little JoJo, Man, Derek, Officer Derek, you always have good interaction with JoJo. Go over there, take this call. It's little JoJo office medicine today. Call so-and-so at community mental health. See if she's available. And maybe everybody can go and just calm little JoJo down. No weapons needed. That's the command. No weapons needed.
I like that. This is so amazing. That's a part of, you don't necessarily have to live in the neighborhood, but you have to know the people. You got to know sometimes we flex our hair that way. When I was at Duquesne, I had braids. They was down here, I had braids. I've been on the other side of life. Like I said, I'm not an angel. So I've spent time over there. I just was not involved in criminal activity. Me and the police didn't have a lot of interactions. There's my son, he has the little thing on his hair right now. Boy, what is that? He said that because he had a braid. They said that is a fade with some braids. Okay, that's the hairstyle. I guess that's what y'all doing. He's not into any of this stuff. So that's a part of knowing the dynamic, knowing the demographic. Maybe they just want that style. Maybe that's the style them and they homies is rocking right now, but you've considered this a profile to where now you need to check up on all these people. I work with, like I said, the violence prevention program. One of our violence interrupters is from Homewood. She said the police were stopping young men and threatening to arrest them because they were riding bikes. And then another time because their pants was hanging down. Like, is this a crime? I thought we had bike lanes. But they're going to get in trouble for riding bikes because it's warm outside and they've been in the house for a whole year and a half. It's culture, it's people. So I've never really been not a hairy person, like a fan of all this stuff. So that's my preference. Like we said, know yourself. Be honest with yourself. If I decided to grow some locks, they're going to respect those too. I've had my beard out to where it was not as full as Julius, as he got one of those professional beards. But, you know, it was down here. And I call it being in my monk mode when I don't get haircuts. I am who I am. So if I don't have a haircut, you got to deal with that. I don't.
Dre, you talk a lot about your son. You say he's 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What kind of talks do you have with him about wellness and life and police and being a young black man?
Very direct. Very direct. He's my oldest. So he's been with me since he was 8 months old. Very direct. I've taken him through a lot of the stages of my life with me. That's one of the main reasons I speak about him like that. When I was in CCAC, when I was in Duquesne, he would go to those classes with me. He was literally in the car seat in the class with me. My teachers knew him, my classmates knew him. So I need you to know this front to back, from as soon as you could comprehend to where your dad is in life while he's talking to you. Going to those type of places for they were unsolved murders, because a lot of young people were getting killed and the murders were unsolved. So going on those rallies and those marches and those things, I need you to see who's here and what we're out here for. You're just not out here on a field trip kicking it with some old folks. Like, young people are dying. There are serious things going on in the world. I need you to be aware, because my previous life is not at all what his current life is. He hasn't been involved in any of that stuff. My son probably fought 2, 3, 4, 5 times in his life. It was almost a weekly thing when we was growing up. Like, it was a whole bunch of history that he doesn't have to experience. But I have to tell him that you are in a space to where same thing we just said, to where they can see you as somebody that you're not, based on a decision of people you're around or based on the look that you choose. And it could be on with you. We have very strong genes. Like I said, 2 of my cousins on the north side got killed. My son looks exactly like one of my little cousins. They can misinterpret you for him based on anything that occurred anywhere else in the city. And you can be in that type of violence. I need you to be aware. Aware. My mom always said, be aware of your surroundings. I was very observant and less talkative before I went to CCAC and took oral communication. Then I guess that's what helped me become a therapist. I was very observant. I would be quiet in rooms where people thought something was wrong with me. No, I'm just checking the scene. I don't know any of you. I don't know what y'all capable of. I need to know everything. So just making sure he has that mindset without instilling that fear and that trauma that we talked about. I don't want you to be so scared that you can't go outside and live. I need you to know everything, though.
Mm.
Mm. Well, let me ask if we get ready to wrap up. So, are you abolish police or reform? From a mental health standpoint.
Right now, in my spirit says reform. My spirit says reform. My mental health space says reform right now. There are some crimes that we need police assistance with. I'm not going to say call Cousin Johnny when people up here at a standoff with AK-47s or whatever have you. I'm not calling Cousin Johnny. I'm going to need some police with their shields and their AK-47s to calm the scene down. I don't know how that works. But there are some things that we need police for. And there's a lot of other things we can manage on our own. So the social component, if it's the police officer themselves, if it's a tag team partner, if it's a triage of some nature to where they are not the only responders on the scene and having to make all those decisions by themselves, that would be cool. Eventually, I think we can all police and govern ourselves. I don't know what type of year that is, 2075. I don't know. Whatever year that is, I believe we are capable of that. But I think it should be gradual to where it's not stark opposites, because now these police that are no longer police have to find a job, and that same spirit and that same energy goes into whatever other job that they possess now. It doesn't change just because they're a police officer.
I think you best said it when you said they are people, and we cannot ignore that fact, is that these officers are people. So much we would like to abolish, we have to take them in consideration. And I'm one of abolish and redo the whole system, but to your point, I understand. I used to be reformed, but I've seen so much, being out in the streets, it just, I sometimes don't have faith in this full recovery with all the racism, that has, what word I'm looking for, infiltrated the whole system. You almost have to clean it out with bleach. That's how bad it is. The stink is so bad. Racism stink is so bad in the policing system that it has tortured our race so much mentally. I don't see how we could turn the corner in that without serious doing away of a system and rebuilding it. But I will be honest, I have not envisioned totally what that looks like.
I respect that. And I don't bring contrary energy to anything that is true to what you say. I just operate from the other side of the coin, if we could do that, as opposed to trying to undo their stuff. Let's just build our own stuff. We spend all this time trying to undo what they got going on. Maybe we put all that energy and that love and that skill and that talent into what we have and what we need. So then, as opposed to abolishing that, we just created exactly what we need.
Yeah.
I love it.
Abolish their own stuff. We didn't create that.
We got 1 minute left. Final thoughts, y'all.
Man, I just truly appreciate y'all, man. I do. This is cool stuff. I like sharing what's in my heart and on my professional space, and this platform is amazing. So I appreciate y'all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm excited to work with you in the future. Thank you so much. Well, I'm excited. It's the first time we really got to be in each other's space.
Yeah.
Vibe. We vibing.
Good, man. I like that. Thank you.
And look, I got my little shirt on that says Black Proud.
Are we up? I got my Wilkesburg alumni on the day. I'm gonna do some walking around.
Okay, Julius, show us what you have on.
I keep it plain. I'm just like happy that I got like a little lightweight muscle from the gym to flex.
That's
there you go. There you go, bro.
Like, hey.
Love,
Yeah,
y'all.
as
We've been
well,
talking
buddy.
about love, humanity, and that's really what we talk about. So, Dre, thank you for bringing that love and that humanity to us today. We appreciate you, brother. Everybody who tuned in, we love y'all. Same place, same time next week. We'll see y'all later.
Thank y'all. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Peace.